quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the first exit onto Burnham Lane. In a quarter of a mile, turn right onto Bath Road, A4.
Also, 1948, the American President Harry Truman signed an executive order to desecrate the US military. And in 2016, Hillary Clinton became the first woman to be nominated for US President by a major political party.
Turn right onto Bath Road, A4.
Your birthday today. Many happy returns of the day, and I hope you have a very, very happy birthday. Let's hope the weather's not going to be too hot. I couldn't bear it if it was too hot today at all. And latest role is Daisy Edgar-Jones. She's bought her first 3-bedroom flat, so they've now printed pictures of it. They've told you how much she paid for it as well. No secrets in the business. She spent £750,000. So now you know. Bargains all over the place. Have a fantastic day, everybody. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow. Don't forget to download my Little Bit Extra podcast. There's a new episode every single morning, completely free, on the Global Player app. If you missed any of this morning's programme, there is a podcast of the whole show available on there very shortly. Just go to lbc.co.uk.
Continue on Bath Road for 3/4 of a mile.
And then you can download all of the podcasts. All of the programmes have many, many podcasts, thousands of them, and they go back about 6 years. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 4 for Steve Allen's Early Breakfast. Coming up at 10 this morning, it's James O'Brien, but right now, busy Tuesday breakfast. It's Nick Ferrari.
Thanks, Steve. At 7 o'clock on Tuesday, July the 26th, dear Lord, an economy in free fall, growth stalled, people not able to get out of the country, and the Conservatives are talking about bloody earrings.
I don't have any issue with how expensive anybody else's clothes are, and actually I think Rishi is a very finely dressed person. I'm a great admirer of his dress sense, and I don't know how she knows where I got my earrings.
Once the party of Winston Churchill, now reduced to talking about Claire's accessory earrings. Yes, you did hear that correctly. A word or two on tax.
I'm sorry, this is scaremongering.
Canada actually
this is Project Fear.
I remember the referendum campaign. And there were only one of us who was on the side of Remain and Project Fear, and it was you, not me. You talk
Maybe
about
I
this.
learned from
It might not matter. We could all be burnt to a frazzle.
There'll be a lot of dry weather around in the next few weeks, especially for the southern half of the UK at least, with the bulk of any significant rainfall in the far north and northwest.
Oh, and if you want to try and get away from it all, forget it. All the trains are going on strike. It's a happy Tuesday.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 7 o'clock.
In 200 yards, at Huntercombe roundabout, take the first exit onto Huntercombe Spur heading to M4, London.
Debate. A snap poll of ordinary voters by opinion found 39% believe Rishi Sunak performed best, compared with 38% for Liz Truss. LBC's Lucy Hoff has more on what the candidates claim to offer.
The debate opened with the economy. Liz Truss said she would put
Exit the roundabout onto Huntercombe Spur.
immediately, including tax cuts and a reverse in the rise in national insurance. Her rival Rishi Sunak said this could lead to 7% interest rates and described her plans as a 40 billion credit card being handed to our children and grandchildren. Lucy Hoff, LBC, Westminster.
Keep left at the fork.
President Bill Clinton has described Lord Trimble as a leader of courage and principle following his death at the age of 77.
In a quarter of a mile, merge onto M4.
Prize for helping to broker the 1998 Good Friday Agreement. Alva Ray, contributing writer at The New Statesman, has told LBC the historic deal transformed lives.
When the opportunity for peace came, he took it. It made him quite unpopular with parts of the unionist community, but I sit before you today as one of these people who grew up in Northern Ireland not hearing a bomb going off, not knowing what it feels like to be searched when you go into a shop.
Ghislaine Maxwell has been moved to a low-security prison in Florida. The 60-year-old will serve her 20-year jail sentence for trafficking teenage girls at FCI Tallahassee, according to the Bureau of Prisons. She'll be eligible for release in 2037. A group of MPs has found the government needs to immediately change what they're calling its out-of-date energy bill support for households. The Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy Committee has recommended ministers fund a new home insulation drive to permanently bring down bills and get rid of the energy price cap in favour of a new social tariff for the most vulnerable. Water companies and the Environment Agency are meeting later to decide whether certain parts of England could face an official drought. They'll be looking at protecting supplies if the dry weather continues, including the possibility of hosepipe bans this summer. Researchers say alcohol habits picked up during lockdown could lead to 25,000 extra deaths over the next 20 years. The study for NHS England found heavy drinkers consumed more and may never go back to pre-pandemic levels. In the city, the FTSE 100 will reopen at 73.06 after closing up 29 points yesterday. The pound buys $1.20 and €1.17. The weather, most parts of the UK staying dry with some sunshine, especially in the west and southwest. Some scattered light showers across Scotland and in northern and eastern England. Lighter winds, a high of 22 Celsius. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Holly Harris.
We've all been there. A really important thing to do, but you just can't get started. So you watch another episode. Rearrange the kitchen drawer for the 10th time. But if you speak to NatWest, we can help you start getting started. Forget the drawer loft. You're rearranging your whole life. So whatever your plans, big or small, let's chat. Search NatWest. Tomorrow begins today.
After 7 on Tuesday, July the 26th. It got personal yesterday in the TV debate between the two Conservative rivals. We'll give you full details on that and assess if there was a winner. Probably the winner, I would suggest, was Kimmy Badenoch for not having to take part. If she was sitting watching at home, thank God I didn't get any further. But that's for a few moments' time. In other news,
the parents of Archie Battersby have lost an appeal against a High Court decision to end the 12-year-old's life support. I'm LBC's Charlotte Lynch with the details.
It's official. England is in its driest spell since 1976. There could be more hot weather on the way, a drought as well, and a hosepipe ban. Full details on that. To continue the theme of good news, get ready for widespread strikes on the railways now. Alan Jones is industrial correspondent for PA Media on the latest rail strike for next month.
That just proves the kind of depths of this dispute, really. It's not just a few kind of hotheads. This is now across the whole rail industry.
Nightmare at the ports, of course, at the weekend. It's been nightmare at the airport, London Heathrow, for some months, since Easter, really. The boss is coming on later in the first hour. We'll talk to him. And please God, we need something to warm our hearts, don't we? Can we have another night tonight like the one last week against Spain?
Space opening up for Georgia Stanway. Goes for goal!
Your beauty, Georgia Stanway scoring the winning goal. We'll look ahead to tonight's semi-final clash.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
The word unedifying doesn't even get close, does it? That TV debate last night. I remind you, the Conservative Party, the party of Winston Churchill, the Falklands War, initiatives now as such as buying your council house and various others. As much you complain about Mrs. Thatcher, but she probably did save the nation. Reduced to talking about the cost of earrings. Is this for real? As I said earlier, the winner's probably Tom Tugendhat and Kemi Badenoch, who didn't have to take part in it. How can they really set this forward now as one of those two to be the leader of the party and our Prime Minister? Where were the constructive policies? We need to tell you an enormous cost of living crisis. We look balking at flat growth. People can't get out of the country to get away on holidays, and they're talking about the cost of Rishi Sunak's suit. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you're aware, Mr. Sunak's mother was a pharmacist. I don't know if you've ever heard that. And he used to do the books and actually do deliveries. And this, you probably don't know, Liz Truss, her birthday today. She's getting earrings, by the way. She grew up in Paisley and Leeds. I don't know whether you picked up on any of that. Reporting LBC's political editor, Theo. Theo.
It was supposed to be a clean fight to the finish, but last night's television debate was anything but, as the battle for number 10 between Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss turned personal. Top of the agenda, tax cuts. Sunak wants to hold off until inflation has been brought under control. Truss wants tax cuts running into the tens of billions.
Everybody thinks that putting up taxes at this moment is going to hurt the...
In 2 miles to junction 4B, exit towards M3, M23.
Rishi's plans. We are headed for a
Really
recession.
you promised almost £40 billion. It's not moral to ask our children to pick up the tab for the bills that we're not prepared to pay.
Now, it was exchanges like that that led to Truss's team accusing Sunak of, I'm quoting here, aggressive mansplaining and shouty private school behaviour. Meanwhile, in front of a national audience, Liz Truss offered Rishi Sunak a job in her cabinet if she wins, but it wasn't enough to paper over the differences, as Mr. Sunak warned homeowners face misery if interest rates are hiked up to as high as 7% to curb soaring inflation.
Your own economic advisor has said that would lead to mortgage rates, interest rates going up to 7%. Can you imagine what that's going to do for everyone here and everyone watching? That's thousands of pounds on their mortgage bill. It's going to tip millions of people into misery, and it's going to mean we absolutely have no chance of winning the next election either.
Rishi is talking about putting up corporation tax this autumn. He is talking about raising taxes at a time when there is a global economic crisis. I don't believe this negative, declinist language.
It's your own economic advisor, Liz. It's not mine. It's your own advisor.
I have lots of economists that are backing my plan.
Now, you'll remember from a couple of weeks ago that Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries came out for Liz Truss. Yesterday, she wasn't holding back as she tweeted the following: Liz Truss will be travelling the country wearing her earrings, which cost circa £4.50 from Claire's Accessories. Meanwhile, Rishi visits Teesside in Prada shoes worth £450 and sported a £3,500 bespoke suit as he prepared to crunch leadership.
In a quarter of a mile at junction 4B, exit towards M3, M23.
Those comments, but she didn't.
I don't have any issue with how expensive anybody else's clothes are, and actually I think Rishi is a very finely dressed person, and I'm a great admirer of his dress sense, so that is not something that I would...
Exit at junction 4B, then keep right at the fork.
To be perfectly frank about it, I'm campaigning in this leadership election in a positive way about my experience.
Keep right at the fork.
It is a very prominent supporter of yours. It is making very specific suggestions about the choice of clothing of your rival. And I'm asking you specifically whether you disown them.
I'm not going to give Rishi fashion advice.
That's Liz Truss there concluding Theo Ushall's report. Let's turn to David Davis, former Conservative Party chairman and Brexit secretary, obviously Conservative MP, supporting Rishi Sunak, by the way, in the campaign. He joins me now. One of your colleagues, Johnny Mercer, said the leadership debate and indeed the leadership race is, quotes, becoming puerile and embarrassing. Do you concur, David Davis? Good morning.
Well, I think it's been fiercer than previous debates. I mean, I was initially supporting Penny Mordaunt, and she came under the most ferocious attack, actually mostly from Liz Truss's camp. So it is fiercer than it's been in the past, partly I think because it's close. But you know, the exchanges last night, I mean, I had 5 debates, I think, with David Cameron, and I was quite tough on him from time to time. I don't think I ever got accused of, well, obviously not mansplaining, but whatever it is, you know, whatever it is, when it's man against man rather than man against woman. You know, I think that these things are tough. And also, the raw truth at the back of it is that there's some incredibly important issues in there. I mean, you know, I am broadly speaking a low tax conservative, but the simple truth is that the price of the policy that Liz was proposing was that, well, base rates go up to 7%. I'm quite surprised actually Rishi didn't point out that mortgage rates and commercial rates are probably 8, 9, 10%, 4 times what it is now. But at the end of the day, I mean, all these things lead the public to make a judgment on character, and actually that's where I've come from, because I've watched loads of these debates down the years, and what we tend to do is we tend to elect somebody to deal with one crisis, and then they're defeated.
In 2 miles to junction 3, take the A312 exit to Harrow, Hayes.
When everybody everybody compares themselves to, I think mostly wrongly, is Mrs. Thatcher. Why did she defeat not just the inflation issue, but also the strikes issue, but also Galtieri and so on? It was a matter of character. In her case, it was courage, consistency of principle, intellect, all matched together, and that's actually why I arrived at supporting Rishi Sunak. Because you look back, we had lots of talk about Brexit. Back in 2016, when if you were in a Tory party, you were on the wrong side from the point of view of Mr. David Cameron, the wrong side for your career if you supported Brexit. He had the courage to do it. Liz, for whatever reason, went the other way. She went with the establishment of the day. During the middle of the COVID crisis, the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, moved fastest in the world. This is not me, this is the IMF talking, and came up with the best policy, and so saved us from fairly terrible economic prospects. And now he's defending the harder policy to defend. He's making the tough decision. Now, a future leader of this country is going to have already economic issues to deal with. We've heard about a Ukraine crisis to deal with, an oil supply or energy supply crisis, and others coming down the road, Taiwan, you name it. And they're going to have to be able to make tough decisions. You'll remember, again, go back to the Thatcher example if you like, tough decisions, often unpopular for years on end, but deliver the outcome. And that's what we need. We need somebody who's got the strength of character. That is, as I say, consistency of principle, courage, intellect to do it. And I think that person's Rishi Sunak.
And in a sentence, David, why do you think he won last night?
Why do I think he won last night? Because I think he had the best arguments, frankly. He won on pointing out that, you don't want 7, 8, 9...
In a quarter of a mile, at junction 3, take the A312 exit to Harrow, Hayes.
Pay for the very things that Liz Truss voted for, namely increasing expenditure on the health service. He knows how to do it, she doesn't.
Okay, always good speaking to you, David. Thank you. David Davis, former Conservative Party chairman, served as Brexit Secretary 13 after 7. Listening to that is Simon Jenkins, Guardian columnist.
Exit at junction 3.
Times in the Evening Standard and broadcaster, joins me now. If I were to say to you, becoming a widely spread belief, the actual victor last night was Keir Starmer.
In a quarter of a mile, at Cranford Parkway interchange, take the 4th exit onto the Parkway, A312.
I'm defeated as the point of these things. It's basically for television. It is not the best way to choose a Prime Minister in this country. It should be chosen by the MPs in the House of Commons. They know these people best. They have to be led by these people, or this person. Putting them on a sort of stage like this and engaging in a boxing fight with some cheering supporters is rather obscene. I find it, someone said, totally puerile. And you end up admiring the person in a sense who laid the best blows. And the boxing parallel, I think, is quite exact. Last night, I thought that, actually, this is slightly against David. I mean, I'm a supporter of Sunak, but I thought he messed it up. Interrupting people is never popular. She managed to retain her dignity, and I thought Rishi Sunak, who I rather support, rather lost his. But so what? And the issues are the ones that David's just described, and they're not issues that ever come out in these sort of bear garden bouts like we've been witnessing over this contest.
So the 160, 170, 190,000, whatever members of the Conservative Party, they would have no say, Simon?
Well, I'm not altogether sure. I mean, they get their say when they get to vote. They get a say once every 4 or 5 years. They're a very unrepresentative group of British people. they're the majority of men in the south of England, relatively well off. They just are not representative of the nation. The leader is being chosen by the people who support his commands in votes in the House of Commons, and that is the issue. And that should remain the issue. If you want to know more about them, for your edification, then I think they should be interviewed separately by political experts or by their own colleagues. But to pit them...
Exit the roundabout onto the Parkway.
Good speaking with you. Simon Jenkins, Guardian columnist, author, broadcaster, former editor of the Times and the London Evening Standard. I won't ask you who was there.
Continue on the Parkway for 1 mile.
Appalling spectacle. Conservative Party engaging in this. If there was a winner, as I said just now, it probably was Sir Keir Starmer, but I'd be grateful to take your views. And in other news, get ready at Route the Light, and I appreciate many of you weren't even around But 1976, the rivers did run dry, as did the reservoirs. Another one could be on the way, is North Yorkshire farmer Keith Stones.
Since the end of April, it rained on the 7th of June, through a week on Thursday, and then Saturday night. Those are the 3 bits of rain we've had. We have the rest of July and all August to come yet.
I don't think we've had any rain at all down here, in my part of London anyway. Oh, we'll look at that in more detail. 7:16 LBC News headlines, Holly Harris.
The two Conservative leadership hopefuls have clashed over their visions for the UK economy in their first head-to-head debate. Former US President Bill Clinton has described Lord Trimble as a leader of courage and principle following his death at the age of 77. Ghislaine Maxwell has been moved to a low-security prison in Florida to serve a 20-year sentence for sex trafficking. The weather, sunshine and showers across the UK, a high of 22 Celsius.
LBC Travel, I'm Anne-Marie Walsh on the M25 anti-clockwise. It's slow moving towards junction 23 for South Mims after a breakdown earlier on. In Wood Green, the high road is closed both ways between White Hart Lane and Wood Green Station for a police investigation. Kingston Hill is closed in both directions between George Road and Kingston Hospital for emergency water repairs. There are delays on the A243 in both directions. That's through the roadworks near to Chessington Wells of Adventures. In Greenwich, it's already looking slow on the A102 northbound at the Blackwall Tunnel, and on the trains, no service on South Eastern between Victoria and Beckenham Junction via Herne Hill, with a replacement bus service between Denmark Hill and Beckenham Junction, and minor delays on the Elizabeth line between Liverpool Street and Shenfield.
This is LBC.
Worried your freezer has taken up too much space but don't want liquid lollies? Discover the half car, half freezer. With an interior that won't go above -40. At least the windscreen won't steam up.
There's a wrong way to do hybrid. And a right way. With ultra-responsive handling and powered by over 2 decades of hybrid...
In a quarter of a mile, at Wagoners Roundabout, take the second exit and stay on the Parkway, A312.
Hello, hybrid happiness.
Call Nick Ferrari now. 0345 6060 973. This is LBC.
Imagine being this close to a real-life shark. Or hundreds of jellyfish. You don't have to when you visit Sea Life London, because we're home to thousands of sea creatures from all around the globe. As for seahorses that sound like... or a turtle that plays its flippers like a tambourine. Don't hold your breath on those. You'll have to visit to see the real sorts. See the wonder under London at Sea Life London Aquarium.
With O2...
Exit the roundabout onto the Parkway. Continue on A312 for 1.5 miles.
Roam freely in the EU, up to 25 gig. So go on, share your fancy new trunks. Share those new shiny white bumps. Share that new Hawaiian top. And that dance floor mic drop. Share it all with a 150 gig SIM for £20. Search O2 SIM only.
Price increase by RPI plus 3.9% every April 24-month tariff. Offer ends 10th of August. Claim gift card by email or SMS within 30 days. Eligibility and terms apply.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
19 after 7. Chris, going to come to your call in a moment concerning what you watched last night. Particularly unedifying, wasn't it? Front pages of the newspapers and the websites. Most of them go, understandably, of course, on the events of last night. The Daily Telegraph, Sunak would be a new Gordon Brown, claims Truss. Truss vow to curb militant unions, is the Daily Mail. Gloves are off, Tory contest turning nasty, is the Eye. Clash of the Titans is the LBC website. Sunak and Truss spar over tax and Boris. The Times, bitter Tory rivals get personal. The Metro, you'll lose us the next election. That's blue. Well, I tell you what, you're both doing a good job of that. It is the most unedifying spectacle. As I said twice now, the real winner is Sir Keir Starmer out of these. The Daily Express, the Great Divide, tax cuts now or later. And the Guardian newspaper, Tory leadership candidates clash in acrimonious dispute. I'm sorry, debate, not dispute, debate. Front page, I was looking at the other front pages, incorrect. The others do not go. In fact, quite a good idea, really. Neither the Sun nor the Mirror have a word about it on their respective front pages. For the Sun, it's Ron his way, as in Ronaldo. They report that Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the best-known football players on the planet, is, they report, jetting back to Manchester to demand he leaves United now. They're returning to training after a pre-season tour, and Ronaldo, 37, missed that, quotes, for family reasons, and now he wants out. The Daily Mirror has an investigation in which they point out that children can buy cheap killer knives in high street stores. I think we did this, didn't we, on LBC a few months ago? It sounds very... Or I might be just having flashbacks. It does come at a certain point. Our 16-year-old undercover reporter tells the Daily Mirror was illegally sold blades in 15 UK outlets, and some for the price of a soft drink. And there is the young woman with some pretty ferocious... Good God, look at that one. Pretty ferocious knives she was able to buy. But I have to say, I just sense I've heard that all before. All right, let's pick up on what you saw last night and how it might have informed you. Chris in Guildford. Chris, how do you react to it? Good morning.
Well, as I said in my text, come back Boris. I mean, these two are just an absolute shambles. I can't think of the word, to be honest with you. It's just...
Well, I'm glad you said shambles. So you probably can think of the word, but we're on the radio, so it's best you don't say it.
Exactly. If we've after 9 o'clock, Nick, I'll tell you exactly what I thought. But,
so here we are. We've got around, getting for 10% of the Conservative Party membership, signing a petition saying that Boris Johnson's name should actually be on the list as well. And he's got some prominent backers supporting him. Were it to be Johnson v Truss v Sunak, who do you think would win that?
I think Boris would absolutely walk it. Absolutely walk it. I mean, I know he's had a lot of faults and a lot of mistakes, but I personally think he should stay and let the electorate decide in 2 years' time or whenever.
Well, lastly, of course, you go around Westminster and they will tell you that people are up in arms, they're furious, they weren't able to go and see relatives or have Prosecco or go to parties, whatever. But I think out in the country, people are a little bit more forgiving in reality.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't affect me personally in that way, luckily, but it's not really a matter of forgiving. I think Boris has a lot of faults. He's been absolutely stupid. I mean, how the hell he thought he was going to get away with some of the things he did?
Yeah.
We're so petty compared to the other things he's done, but overall, he's got some sort of character, he's got some sort of leadership, he's done pretty well on the big ideas, as they put it. I just think it's just let him stay and then let the